Greetings. I'm Sister MyRa. Welcome to the Hall of Ma'at. Okay. First, I'm going to start off by greeting the ancestors. We have to always greet the ancestors. I greet the ancestral spirits, the elemental spirits, and the universal spirits. Okay. And we want to welcome them here and do a libation to them. Anytime you're doing a libation or anytime you're invoking the spirits, you always have your altar together with the four elements involved. They come through the four elements as you bring them together. So we have our fire here. I have it in a light blue candle. Light blue is the element for the air. And we're in the Aquarius energy, which is an air energy. And that's the reason why we have the light blue candle for the air. We have the earth. I have the crystal here. That represents the earth. Crystals, any kind of stones, that's the earth element. And then, of course, we have the incense. We can still smell the incense. That's the air element that we're dealing with. And then the water. And this is to the ancestral spirits, the universal spirits, and the elemental spirits. Ashe. Okay. Now, I'm Sister MyRa. And as I said, I'll be doing a regular lecture here the first and second Wednesday of the month, and you can catch a preview of what I'm going to be doing on Brother Akhenaten's show on Tuesday nights, the first Tuesday of the month. So today, the topic of my lecture, it's called The Rising Stars, a Fulfillment of the Prophecy. Okay. Now, like I said, I just came from Houston, Texas, and what I'm doing is carrying over the lecture that I did there. So I'm just using a lot of the material from that lecture, which went over very well. I gave that same lecture there, so I'm putting this on the tape, for benefit of those who uses or gets the tape in Houston. They'll know the material is familiar because I'm carrying over this same lecture. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is, since this is the Hall of Ma'at, I want to do a little, just a little bit to tell you about Ma'at. She is the daughter of Ra. She is one of the most ancient of the deities, so ancient that she assisted Ptah and Kamu as they laid the foundation of creation. Ma'at amplifies the principles of true righteousness, truth, reality, the genuine, the upright, the just, the steadfast, and unalterable laws of justice. Ma'at symbol is the feather with air as her element. And what I want to do is that leads me up to, I want to talk about the feather, which is a symbol of Ma'at. Okay, so that leads me to reading a little bit on the feather so that we can understand the significance of how to use these tools to understand when the spiritual world is trying to give us information. We get our information through, like I said, the elements, which is nature. See, so all of the animals, all of the elements, all of these things come together and connect with us so that we can get some spiritual enlightenment. This is how we understand these things. Okay. Page 91. Okay, it says here, feathers are symbols of the accomplishment of rising from the terrestrial world, of being free of the gravity of the mundane world. They are symbols of balance and of the wind. They are commonly used to symbolize all creator gods and goddesses, those who breathe life into humanity. When a feather comes into your possession, it can help give lift to some area of your life. It can be used to help insulate and protect you against elements within your life. The kind of feather and the bird from which it comes can help you to determine the specific element in your life from which it will help lift you and protect you against. For example, a dove is a bird that is often associated with peace. To the Hopi, it would lead them to sources of water. A dove feather can thus be used to protect your own sense of peace and help you find that which will quench your greatest thirst at the time you encounter the feather. See? I always tell everyone, when you walk upon a feather, pick it up. Okay? It does mean you've been practicing the principles of Ma'at, and you're about to be rewarded. But you have to receive the feather in order to receive the gift or the reward. So pick it up. You know, that is your gift. It says, you must first come to recognize how feathers are linked not only to birds, but to the forces and energies of the air. Many traditions have spoken of the varied expressions of nature. They have often described entire dimensions of life associated with the elements that are generally invisible to the human eye. These we know more commonly as members of the fairy realm. The fairies, elves, divas, and spirits that work with and around humans through specific elements. Folklore and mythologies are filled with tales of beings associated with the element of air. These beings range in size from the tiniest to the great storm divas that move the winds and bring changes in the weather. They often appear delicate, and those of the larger size may actually appear angelic. They are around when anything associated with the element of air is honored. Anyone who works with birds' totems will have contact with them. Fairies and spirits of the air often work through birds to assist humans in the initiation of air, the understanding of the workings and powers of the mind. Through birds, they help us in opening to wisdom and to everything discussed later on in chapter 6. Feathers are direct links to them. They call their forces into play from the softest sigh to the strongest gale. The spirits of the air are found. Wherever birds live or are found, these fairies are found as well. Many fairies and spirits of the air come to humans in the form of birds and other winged creatures. Through them, we can more easily connect with the archetypical energies of birds. Anyone who works with any element in nature has contact with the fairy realm of life, whether they are conscious of it or not. The more conscious of it they are, the more real it becomes. The easier it is to work with any creature in their realm, in this case, birds. It says, many spirit totems that are birds are simply spirits of the air, using the bird form to connect with humans and more directly. Through feathers, we can call forth birds or those fairy beings associated with the element of air. Through feathers, we can learn to make our wishes reality. They empower our thoughts, and through them, we can invoke nature to confirm this link for us. The confirmation process of a link with your bird totem or of an air spirit working through the bird is simple. Air makes possible the power of sound and the movement and activation of thought. When the connection with your bird totem is established or needs to be confirmed by you, simply perform these following 5 steps. Choose a day on which the air is perfectly still. Take any feather, go outside and sit under a tree. Okay? Number 2, allow yourself to relax and just breathe deeply. Number 3, then slowly raise the feather above your head with both hands and then lower it to just in front of your mouth. Number 4, now slowly and gently blow upon the feather. As you do, move it with your hand as it is being carried by your breath. And finally, number 5, to enhance the effect, whistle a soft childhood tune that you remember upon your feather. If you have a penny whistle or flute, tie the feather to it and play the tune. It says in just a few minutes, the air spirits and archetypical forces linked to the feather will become active. The tree leaves will rustle. You will see some leaves or dust swirl upon the ground. You will feel a breeze begin to pick up. Bird activity around you will increase. This is a simple exercise, but it is one that helps awaken a realization of the force of air. It provides you a quick confirmation that feathers are wonderful tools to connect with those forces and those spiritual beings that work with them, okay? And I just did a little experimentation before I came over here, and I took my feather and I blew on it, because that's what they tell you to blow on it. And sure enough, when I went outside, I had birds, just a bunch of birds, you know, just lighting in front of my tree. I lost count of them, the birds that came and just were in my tree, in my backyard. So, you know, test it. You got to understand that this is real, okay? And when we're talking about the air element, we're talking about the unseen force, okay? So prove it. Prove it for yourself, because once you do, you become more confident in your own inner power. The more confident you are, the more powerful you become, okay? Because we are moving into the Aquarian age, which is just the age of the knowing, okay? It's no longer enough to believe. That was the Piscean age, okay? Piscean is a water sign, which is emotions. It's ruled by the planet Neptune, which is about spirituality or deception, you see. So there has been some emotional manipulation of our emotions, you know, to deceive us. This is where we got the religion from, okay? Now we're moving into the Aquarian age, which is the air age, where we go inside, get in touch with our own spirit, uncover our own unique gifts in godhood, and that's what we bring to the table to make a whole. In other words, we are not trying to blend our energy. We're trying to combine our energy to make a whole. That's why one teacher or one leader is not going to work. We can use common tools, you see, but we all have our own godhood, and our own spirit is going to be the only guide for us in understanding, you know, what we bring to the table, okay? The unique path is totally unique for each one of us, okay? But we have to know that. Aquarian is the age of the knowing. So once you know, and I never talk about a person's sign without talking about their opposite sign, because you're only getting half of the picture, you see. Bring the other half and you have a whole. Two halves make a whole. So we've been programmed to be literalized, you see, so that we do not get the fullness. As above, so below. When we start looking at the fullness, we see that. We see the fullness of the concept. So if we're talking about the Aquarian age, which is right here, the opposite of Aquarius is Leo, okay? So Leo represents the creator, the ruler, you know, it's creativity, the ruler, all these things. So when we put the I know of Aquarius and combine it with the I know of the rulership of Leo, we're talking, I know I am the creative ruler of the universe, okay? Understand? Put them together before you understand the fullness of the concept here. Otherwise, you're just using half of what you are trying to activate, okay? Now I'm going to, the next part of this lecture is Daughter Earth's Universal Perspective. And I'm going to read some material so that you can get a perspective of what this energy is all about. It says, our ancestors knew to look toward the stars, the planets, and constellations for answers to universal questions. They also knew that the universe was too huge to get any answers unless it was dissected into symbolic understanding. Symbols can be applied to thousands of words. They knew that in order to be able to grasp the meaning of the message from the vast cosmos, that even the symbols would need to be personified as gods and deities to best describe the particular energy they observed unfolding through the cycles of seasons. Even the deities that personified the energies needed to have surnames to differentiate characteristics of each deity. Okay? How did they know? They knew because their chief deity, Saturn, as we know it today, was not the distant light in the sky for them as it is for us. Saturn's close proximity to the Earth created an atmosphere often referred to as the Golden Age. The ancient ancestors had so many names for Saturn, there is not room or time enough to mention. To name a few, we can start with Set, the first son of the Great Mother. And we can look at Cronus, or the time god, is reference to chronological, and also all of the names given to the sun today, such as Sol and Helios, applied to Saturn first. Okay? The Babylonians signified Saturn as the most prominent of the planets and was even tabbed as the creator of the earth. Okay? Remember that. Saturn is the creator of the earth. Okay? It's represented by the energy of Capricorn. And as you can see up here, the Father. Whenever you read about the Father in the Bible, guess what? You're reading about Saturn. Okay? You're reading about Saturn. It's the Father energy of the earth. The closeness of Saturn's influence allowed the ancients to possess extraordinary spiritual perceptions through methods of telepathy with plants, animals, each other, as well as energies of the universe. His presence was considered as the king in heaven. Saturn is represented by the energy of the constellation of Capricorn, which is the energy of the concept of the Hebrew people. It also governs the colors of brown, dark browns, and is the energy of limitations, obstacles, and restriction. It is the sign of the sacrificial lamb. Now, why am I focusing so on Saturn? Can anyone see where I'm leading to? Why did the ancestors put Saturn at such a prominent status? Who are the children of Saturn? Who does Saturn energy best describe as a people? Saturn was put into exile, and you can find many interpretations as to why, such as the battle between Set and Osiris, or he got taken out by his son Jupiter as he took out his father Uranus. The fact is, he was put into exile and was prophesied to return to prominence. In fact, this is the Christ energy represented by Jesus, born when? December 25th, which is the Capricorn energy. As the reign of Saturn returns, so shall the people of his energy. The winter solstice indicates the harvest as well as the apocalypse, and it will be the Capricornian energy that will activate and initiate this process. Okay? On August the 11th, 1999, all of the planets were lined up in the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Leo, opposite Aquarius, and Taurus, opposite Scorpio. Those are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac, which means they are, very, we call that the cross of crucifixion, purging and suffering, you see. It says, the fixed cross of August 11th signified a reversal of the energy rotation from the physical material to a spiritual emphasis. This turn of energy, or return, set the stage for the fulfillment of the prophecy of the return of the Christ or spiritual reign, which has empowered the inheritors or Saturn's energy to open up a new era of rulership under the principles that governs the laws of righteousness of the universe. Okay? When all 12 signs of the zodiac represents each of these principles. In order for the earth to become whole and full, all 12 of these principles must be active. The earth is in the process of becoming a sacred planet. And if any one of the principles are lacking, it would continue as an aberrant entity. With the energy reversal, the material will now take a backseat to the spiritual, and we will continue our present path, not in balance with the spiritual activation. We will be going against the grain of the forces of the universe and experience a material decline and degradation due to the friction produced by pushing against the grain of the now spiritual rotation. We're already seeing this in a big way through weather phenomena especially, you see. Okay, good. And see, like every time, like I said, it started in Leo, which is that fixed energy here. That is the element of fire, okay? So when we first activated, when this fixed cross was first activated in Leo, then we saw fiery things happening to indicate the deterioration of the physical domain, you see. We saw a lot of fire things at that time. We saw heat waves. We saw those fires out in California. We saw all kind of fiery activity, you know, that signaled, you know, the reversal or the downfall of the physical. Rulership, as a matter of fact, since Leo represents rulership. So what we were seeing was a decline of the physical rulership, you know, for the upliftment of the spiritual rulership. This is when we had, what's his name, John Kennedy. He went down in an airplane around this time, you see, because Leo represents children and also rulers. So we're talking about the child of the physical rulers, okay? And his downfall was a direct representation of the upliftment of the children of the spiritual rulership. You understand? Okay? So we saw those fire things happening. Now, it moved in the next leg of that fixed cross would have been the Scorpio energy. Okay? That's after Leo would be Virgo, then it would be Libra, then we get to Scorpio, which is the next fixed sign. Okay? And Scorpio is a water sign. So we saw water things begin to happen at that point. The floods, the torrid rains, yes. And for us, on an emotional level, we went to the extremes, right? Because Scorpio is a sign of extremes. So you saw a lot of people going off, you know, getting very extreme in their emotions, you see. That was demonstrating that tear down, you know, demonstrated through the water element, okay? And then the next leg of the fixed cross would have been the Aquarius energy. And there, that's the air. And then we got the tornadoes, you know, and then from man's perspective, we got technological problems, you see. A lot of computers and things started acting crazy, you see. Yeah, all of that. That had to do with the air, the mental. You see, the air represents the mental. So we saw those things being tested, just like the water represents the emotional, and then the fire represents our passions, you see. And so the next fixed sign was Taurus, which is the earth element. You're going to represent all 4 elements on this cross. So here with Taurus, that's when we got the earthquakes, you see, for the earth element and that tear down process. And then for us, it was health problems, because we're talking earth, so we're talking physical, you see. We got the money, the stock market started dropping, the food, absolutely. All those things that are associated with the earth, you started seeing, you know, some deterioration in those areas, you see. So we made a complete cycle then, 1999, then year 2000, that was the second cycle, okay? To 2000, that was the first cycle. And then from 2000 to 2001 was the second cycle, okay? And from 2001 to 2002 is the third cycle. And beware of the third cycle. Well, because that's usually how long. The third cycle, the completion of the third cycle is when you really start seeing a manifestation of the energy, you see. Yes, absolutely. And then just look at numerology. Number 3 represents either creativity or it represents uncertainty, you see. You know, aggravation because you're uncertain. So anxiety, that sort of thing. So you're either going to demonstrate the spiritual, which is creativity of that energy, depending on how you absorbed or how you balanced with what was going on, how you made your adjustments. Because this is the cross of crucifixion. This is where, you know, we're going to make our reversal from that material to the spiritual rotation. And we all got this cross. You see it's here on this chart here. And, but when you look in your chart, wherever your fixed energies show up, that's where you are going to have to make your biggest effort to let go and reverse in those areas. You see, where your fixed energy shows up at. You see, You said you were Leo, so that means your focus in life, would have to take a transformation. It would be taking a direct hit when it comes to time to take a transformation, because that's where that crucifixion energy, fell personally for you. So you look in your chart and you see where that fixed energy is at, and you'll know where you have to make your most effort to make your transformation, you see, in order to reverse that rotation. It depends on where it shows up at in your chart. Each one of these houses, these little pie slices represent houses. See, when you're looking at astrologically, the planets are going to tell you what energy is influencing you. The signs are going to tell you the method or how that energy is influencing you. And then these houses, which is these little pie slices, will tell you where that energy is affecting you in your life, you see. So wherever that energy shows up in your chart, that is where you are going to be called to do your transformation at, you see. You get that by your rising sign. That's why you get a lot of astrologers asking you what your rising sign is, because that is where whatever sign is rising over the eastern horizon line. See, this represents the horizon line. And whatever sign is rising over the eastern horizon line at the time of your birth represents your rising sign. That energy goes in your first house, you see, and then you fill the houses up, as the signs, with the signs that follow it, you see. Like me, I have an Aries rising, which gives me a natural chart, because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so Aries would naturally go in the first house, you see. So all my energies would fall in their natural houses, you see. And so that's how, so I would actually have made my transformation it would have been most profound through my 11th house, my 5th house, my 2nd house, and my 8th house, you see, where those natural energies show up at, you see.
So those are your fixed?
Yes, those are the fixed houses for me. So, and that 2nd house is the house of values. So that's where I would have done some reconstruction. Okay, your 5th house, where Leo is normally at, that's your house of creativity, okay, pleasures, children, you see, rulership. So that area would have been directly affected for me. And then the 8th house is your house of bonding, depth, actually transformation, because that's where Scorpio normally sits. So that's the area that would have affected me. And also the 11th house, which is the house of friendship, group activities, and aspirations, you see. Those are the areas that I would have really been called on to make my transformation at. And so you would look at your houses and find out where that would have come into play for you.
I have a quick question concerning the orientation. Is it like from Earth looking into the heavens?
Yeah, that's why you're seeing it backwards.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like we're actually laid down here, and it's like the perspective from the universe, you see. So that's why we're getting it in like an opposite sense here, you see. Very good question. It says here the 12 principles as demonstrated through the signs are as follows. The first sign, Aries, that's the spiritual warrior for justice. Taurus, the 2nd sign, is a redefinition of our values, moral and material. The 3rd sign, Gemini, is a true understanding and knowledge. The 4th sign, Cancer, represents the nurturance of our heritage, our roots and beginnings. Leo, the 5th sign, is the identity as the children of the creative rulers of the universe. Virgo, the 6th sign, is the healer through purging and purification. The 7th sign, Libra, fairness, justice, and equality, balance. The 8th sign, Scorpio, regeneration and bonding, transformation. The 9th sign, Sagittarius, the expansion of spiritual wisdom. The 10th sign, Capricorn, humbleness, sacrifice, karma. Okay? The 11th sign, Aquarius, the revealer in sake of humanity. And the 12th sign, Pisces, compassion for the misfortunate, the completion or the fulfillment of the whole. Okay? Those are all the 12 principles of righteousness, which are actually, once you reverse your material rotation, you know, and start going in a spiritual rotation, that means you're getting under the laws of the universe, which are governed by the 12 principles of righteousness, okay? So always remember, as above, so below, but in its opposite, you see. Physical, spiritual, but they're always opposites. If we're going physical, we're going Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. But if we're going spiritual, we're going to go Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn. We're going to go in the reverse rotation, okay? You know, that's why we're moving out of the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, because it's a spiritual thing when we move into ages, so we're going in the reverse of what would be the physical natural order, you see? Okay, it says, this is our time. We must be the activators of these forces to become whole, allowing the earth to blossom into the sacred fruit and take her place in the universal scheme of things. The spiritual does need a physical participant for activation. In order to understand how to do this, we must first understand the basics of astrological energy. I'm not here to make astrologers of you, but to give you